Well, alrighty. So, as far as I know, for most of us who have been fans of Star Wars for the longest of times, we all know that the heart and soul of Star Wars has been based upon the premises of good triumphing over evil. Something that is transferable into real life because we're all struggling, fight against evil every single day. And sometimes it feels like evil might be winning for a short while, but ultimately good always triumphs over evil. That's why over 90% of the world always roots for the good guy in movies. There's hardly a time where you'll be rooting for the bad guy, and when you do root for the bad guy, somehow the bad guy changes into the good guy in the movie. At the end of the day, maybe the antagonist becomes the protagonist, and somehow joins other protagonists to fight the main one, the big bad, right? However, when it comes to the Acolyte, because it lacks a key ingredient, the good versus evil ingredient, when it comes to Star Wars and many movies that people relate to it lacks what I call a soul. Nobody's relating to this thing. Nobody cares about the main character. Nobody cares about Oshar and May. Nobody cared about Yod. Yod was killed. I'm sorry I'm going to spoil it, but Yod was killed. Jackie Long was killed, and nobody gave a rat's ass. We just moved on because even the characters in the show did not care. They just moved on. Nobody showed any emotions whatsoever. They just forget about it like as if nothing happened. So if they're forgetting about it, if it's not causing any emotions within them, why should it cause any emotion within us? However, regardless of the fact that there's so much wrong with this show, the media shills, the Disney shills out there are claiming that the show is not the problem of Star Wars. We are. Star Wars' biggest problem is the fans. So they go on to call us toxic and so on and so forth, the things that we have regularly seen. But that doesn't really piss me off. What's really pissing me off about this article and what I want to get down to about this article is that they are so desperate. They are not just attacking the fans. They are actually attacking George Lucas himself. Check this out. The original Star Wars movies were a product of a different time. So they are now attacking the original Star Wars movie, that it is the core of the problem. So they said this was a time when Hollywood relied almost exclusively on traditional tropes to tell stories exclusively through a Eurocentric white male lens. So they want us to hate the idea that it's a white man that created this universe, this fantastic universe that people love so much across the world. Now, I'm going to tell you guys, when I was a kid, last thing I cared about when I was watching Star Wars was thinking, there are not enough black people in this thing, so it's not good enough for me to watch. I did not care. Most of us wanted to be Luke. Most of us were rooting for Han Solo. Most of us were rooting for Luke and Leia and so on and so forth. We were rooting for them. We did not care because the truth of the matter is that human beings are human beings. I rooted for Bruce Lee in Bruce Lee movies. I rooted for Amitabh Bachchan in Amitabh Bachchan movies. The last thing in my mind when I was watching Indian movies growing up or watching Chinese movies when I was growing up was, there is not enough black person in this movie. There are no people that look like me in these movies. No, that was the last thing on my mind. What I was thinking of was, how is Jackie Chan going to beat this bad guy? How is he going to defeat this person? Because I watched a lot of these movies, from Tufan to Gazab to Number 10, Destinambari to Sholay. All of these movies, I watched them when I was a kid. I didn't care whether they were black or not. I also watched African movies as well as many American movies that were dominated by white people, and some of the American movies that were mixed with white and blacks, and some other movies that were dominated by black people. As time went on in Hollywood, the more black people started getting interested in acting, the more we saw black people in acting in movies, and a lot of black movies came out. The 90s were dominated by a lot of black movies, Poetic Justice, or Boys in the Hood, and so on and so forth. Many movies, I forget their names now, but a lot of them, Bad Boys 1, 2, these were all 90s movies. Independence Day was led by Will Smith, a black man. So them trying to talk about these things not being diverse from day one is actually fallacy. It's actually a lie. Hollywood has been progressive for the longest of times, but they're trying to convince us that it was not. So they continue by saying this: protagonists were almost always played up as an ultra-masculine tough guy. No, Luke was not played up as an ultra-masculine tough guy. The only one time he tried to be tough, because he didn't receive enough training, he got his hand chopped off and he had to humble himself and go and receive some training. He wasn't portrayed as an ultra-masculine tough guy at all. While supporting cast typically consist of domestic female characters or problematic stereotypes. However, Leia was not a domestic female character as such. She was a leader of the rebels, right? And she also fought. And also, films released during the insulated time period, the original Star Wars movies are often construed as possessing a similarly narrow narrative focus. The only people construing this is you people. And the good thing about this is that people who think like this, who are trying to trash Star Wars, have been responded to by Lucas. So I want you guys to listen to the big man himself. I don't want to do the responding. I want you guys to listen to George Lucas respond to these assholes.
George Lucas rejects critics who think his films are all white men or sexist.
What's this?
You know, they would say, well, it's all white men. Most of the people are aliens. And the idea is that you're supposed to accept people for what they are, even if they're big and furry, or whether they've got they're green and whatever. The idea is all the people are equal.
No, they don't want that. They don't want white people to be equal with everybody else. They want you to look upon white people like as if white people are superior to everybody else. So we need to bring them down because that's the way that they are viewing things. These are the thought process of Disney. That's why Disney is getting these shields to protect that ideology as much as they possibly can. And people are rejecting it because people are seeing beyond that. You can hear from George Lucas himself. It was always about equality. It was always about diversity across the universe. There were different aliens and so on and so forth. None of us said, oh, we don't like this because we don't see enough of black people in it. There were black people in Star Wars from day one, as many black people were interested in acting back then. Where is this complaint about diversity when it comes to basketball or the NFL? There's no complaint because those two areas of walks of life have what, over 70% black. Where is the diversity? Nobody's complaining about that. But when it comes to Hollywood, oh no, it's too white for my likings, right? They also responded to the fact that they said that the show was sexist, and this is what he had to say.
They said, there's no women in the movies. I said, who do you think the heroes are in those films? What do you think Princess Leia was?
Exactly.
She is the head of the rebellion. She's the one that's taking this young kid that doesn't know anything on this.
The one that they are calling a tough masculine guy.
Boisterous, I know everything guy who can't do anything and trying to save the rebellion with these clowns.
Exactly.
I said, she's the hero of the movie. And it's the same thing with Queen Amidala. Even though she has Jedi on her side, she was still the hero prime mover.
The reason why they don't like this is specifically because they weren't putting on trousers with their twiggy hand, beating men twice their size, tossing them from one end of the room to the other. That's why they don't like it, because in their mindset, a strong feminist woman has to be that woman who has a short hair, maybe one side shaved off, the hair painted pink, blue, or green, or whatever color that they want it to be painted as. The woman slightly looking rough, slightly buff, and trying to talk like a man, act like a man, walk like a man, and do all the things that they say are toxic about men. But when it comes to women doing it, oh, that's a strong feminist character. Let's listen.
And they said, well, but there's no women, you know. I said, you can't just put a woman in pants and expect her to be a hero. You know, they can wear dresses, they can wear whatever they want. It's their brains and their ability to think and do and plan and be logistical, and you know, that's what the hero is.
No, they don't like that in Hollywood. Not today. Not today. They also go on and criticize him for actually making Princess Leia, you know, show her feminist side of her that, you know, men would actually like. Despite taking place in a galaxy far, far away from the filmmaking conventions of Earth, Star Wars original trilogy features a mostly white cast, female characters with largely unrealized potential. He just destroyed that just now with the potentials of both women that he described. And no LGBTQ plus storylines depicted on screen. But even the Acolyte doesn't have any. The one that people were even thinking with Jackie Long and Osha, Jackie Long just got killed unceremoniously alongside Yord as well. So there was none of that be happening in Star Wars till now. So you have to hold Leslie Headland responsible for something. While powerful female leaders like Mon Mothma and Carrie Fisher's iconic Princess Leia are outspoken forces for good in the trilogy, the latter's relationship with the Force and her father is glossed over in favor of her brother. And Leia's infamous bikini scenes at the Jabba's place in Star Wars Return of the Jedi feels like fodder for a generation of male fantasies. However, when you did the same thing in The Acolyte, you did the exact same thing in The Acolyte, actually worse. You thirst trap women in The Acolyte. None of you said it was a fodder for the generation of female fantasies, right? None of y'all. Instead, you were praising, you wrote a whole long article over this shit, and you were praising Leslie Headland. Leslie Headland says it's so clear what's going on between Osha and Khmer in the Acolyte. What's going on? What's going on? So this scene right here, they were praising her for it. So they weren't like criticizing her that this is what they have turned a man into, a sexual object. You see the hypocrisy that we're saying? And when it also comes to them calling the fans racist and so on and so forth and sexist as they have done in this particular article, where was that energy when Disney was removing 5 minutes of Finn's time for China? And where was your energy when they shrunk Finn in a poster for China? Where was your energy when they covered Chadwick Boseman, rest his soul's face, for Black Panther for China? Where was your energy when they turned, Halle Bailey's Ariel into blue for China? Now, it is either that the Chinese people or the people of China are actually racist, or it is Disney that is perceiving them as racist and is trying to cater to their racist mindset because they think that they are racist. I don't think Chinese people are racist. I wouldn't do a poster like that for my particular video if I was trying to promote something to China, but this is what Disney is doing, and none of these people had energy for them. No, they are coordinatedly attacking the fans. They are coordinatedly trying to make sure that this show looks like it's better than the other. I talked about Screen Rant trying to tell us that, this show, The Acolyte, was better than anything else that you've seen from Star Wars and so many of them, but they are all being run by the same corporation, Valnet. When it be Collider, Screen Rant, CBR, Movie Web, they are all being run by that one agency. And most of these people are doing nothing but shield for Disney. Disney hates what George Lucas stands for. They hate what we stand for because we love the idea that good triumphs over evil. And frankly, them coming after the fans is seriously getting old, and it is simply because they are failing.